In progress. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Avi, for making this happen. And I hope to get a flyer out. I didn't get one out for this, but I hope to get a flyer out and keep it going. Thursdays, just before Shabbat, we always want to get that interest to the Parashah. And hopefully I could fulfill that, Bezrat Hashem. So, Parashah in a nutshell, this coming week, Parashat Terumah. All right, we got a few more that just joined in. I always find that with the shiurim, the moment you start, then there's a few more that come on in. So it's always good. Zev and Gabby, thank you guys for joining in. Okay, so Parashat Terumah, Terumah in a nutshell. Um, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to construct the Mishkan, or in English, the tabernacle, a place of worship, a place of Hashem in the desert. And a physical place for Hashem's presence in this world. The Torah describes to us the valuables, the items that were used for the items that were used for the Mishkan. Can you guys see me? Am I good? Okay, yeah. Thank you, Johnny. So the Torah describes, good to see you. Torah describes us the valuables that were used. And hey, Raphael, thanks for joining. So Parashat Terumah, the Torah describes to us the valuables that were used and the various items that were built in for the Mishkan. The Torah opens with the Aron, the Ark, which houses the Luchot, which is representative of the Torah. We'll get to that, and that is in the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKodashim. Just outside the Kodesh HaKodashim was only entered, of course, by the Kohen Gadol once a year on Yom Kippur to do the special tefillot there. And if you would even go, it was so holy that if you would go in there with a different thought, even then kaput, they tied his leg to a string, to a rope, and he would die if he didn't think the right thoughts. That's the Holy of Holies, of course. Right outside the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Shulchan, the menorah, the mizbeach hazahav. So the mizbeach hazahav is not in this week's parasha, but the shulchan and the menorah is in this week's parasha. The menorah, of course, as we know from Chanukah, but it was lit every single day, and representative of Torah Sheba'al Peh, the oral Torah representation, because a flame is something physical yet not so physical, and therefore I could put my finger through it. It's like a gas, but it's there. I see it. It could light things up. I could cook through it, etc. So that is representative of the Torah, where I see it. I see the books. I see the words, but it's definitely something more deeper. It's spiritual. The Shulchan had the 12 showbreads on it, and that is representative of Parashat, of the physical side, and the bracha that connected to it. A fun fact is that the lechem apanim, the breads, the showbreads, were actually kosher lepesach. It was not chametz. The Torah tells us only by two breads, chametz te'afena, bake it in a chametz form, and that is the loaves that were offered with the korban todah, and the shtei halechem that was offered on Shavuot. Otherwise, all other breads, the breads on the shulchan, and all of the breads that were brought with various offerings were all kosher lepesach. Essentially, were all baked under 18 minutes, baked in a way that it was not chametz. The Torah describes in Parashat Terumah the construction of the mizbeach, where Bnei Israel offered the sacrifices, and in the middle of the mizbeach was the fire, and they burnt the various parts of the animal. The walls of the structure of the Mishkan, the covers of the Mishkan, the various curtains of the Mishkan are also described in our parasha. And the parasha is for an architect, gives us the details of the measurements, the valuables and items used to create each of the items in the Mizbeach and in the Mishkan, and basically the overall construction of the Mishkan. And it starts off with terumah, with a donation. The chuli terumah. Hashem says, bring for me a donation. And Rashi tells us, li lishmi. It has to be lishma with the proper intention. And from here we learn also when it comes to us giving, um, in whichever capacity, we should try doing it, of course, with the right intentions, lishma, the right kavanah. So I'm going to go through a few key psukim, and just to give us a flavor. So, my idea is overall on the parasha, and then a few key psukim to give us a few lessons, and trying to stick to the text as best as we can. At the beginning of the parasha, one of the items is the Perek Chaf Hei Pasuk Zayin, Avnei Shoham ve'avnei miluim la'efod ve'lachoshen. So the Avnei Shoham, I think, are onyx, black diamonds. Those were on the shoulders of the Kohen Gadol, and then the Avnei Miluim were on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol. And the Avnei Miluim are called the stones, the filler stones. So the filler stones, these are precious stones. And you're calling precious stones filler stones, like, is that their whole function, that they fill up because they were on a golden breastplate? And is that their whole function? They're just there to fill. They're not called beautiful stones on their own. And this is a beautiful question by one of the great rabbis, and the answer is even though you are of great value as a precious stone in and of itself, but when you fill someone else, then your value actually rises. Meaning, here, imagine you had the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol missing a stone, and that's not precious. That's not the way a Kohen Gadol should dress. It's got to be in the proper uniform. So even though it's a precious stone, but now that you've filled that void and you've made that Kohen Gadol on the proper kavod that Hashem wants it to be, so the fact that you're filling someone else's void, that lesson, that filling sometimes can override your own value, which is a very important message for us. Of course, we have our own life to take care of, ourselves, our wives, our kids, our families. But there's an element of us that we're part of Klal Yisrael, and we have to fill the void in any area. And sometimes it's that filling that would even go above and give us proper, that will give us proper value in our own self, is filling the void of others. Pasuk Chet, a very famous pasuk in the description of the Mishkan, Ve'asuli mikdash ve'shachanti betocham. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, make for me a holy place, Ve'asuli mikdash, and I will dwell among them. The pasuk should have said Ve'shachanti betocho, I will dwell in it. In this physical structure, there's going to be a presence of Hashem, and we know in the Kodesh Kodashim, as we explained, there's going to be a presence of Hashem in that structure. But the pasuk says Ve'shachanti betocham, and I will dwell inside them. And rabbis tell us that it's unbelievable that Hashem's commanding us to build a physical structure, yet through the physical structure, Hashem's going to dwell among us, inside each and every one of us. That is, it's not limited to that physical structure, but by us giving the sacrifices, the prayers, everything we need to do at that beautiful structure, the Mishkan, it's for us to, at the end of the day, be filled with Hashem inside of us. And as we know at the Parashat Bereshit, we're all created B'Tselem Elokim, and Hashem's Dmut, and Hashem's features, so to speak. And therefore Hashem, with our neshama, resides in each and every one of us. We all have godliness inside of us. And therefore, Hashem says, I'm building this structure where you're going to have a physical place on this world, like a Bet Knesset, like a synagogue, which already in Sefer Yechezkel calls the Bet Knesset a Mikdash Me'at, a small Bet HaMikdash. Every synagogue is a small Bet HaMikdash because it's a physical structure. Like, you can't contain Hashem. Hashem is Hashem. Hashem is everywhere. But in a certain way, as we know, it's holier to pray at the Kotel than in your wall at home, right? So too, it's holier to pray in the synagogue than it is just outside of the synagogue. So there is levels of Kedusha levels of the Shekhinah, where the Shekhinah resides. And therefore Hashem says, okay, build a physical place for me, but I'm not going to just reside there. Through your connection to me there, I'm going to reside. I'm going to, physical body. Sorry. I'm going to, I don't know how that Google on the phone just perked up. Maybe I don't know if I said Google or Hey Google or whatever, but um, so, uh, so basically through this physical body, through this physical place, we are going to connect to Hashem, and Hashem's going to dwell in us in a stronger way. Now, when it comes to the Aron, that is the first of the items that was built, that's mentioned in the Parashah. So, if we notice, this is also a famous Dvar Torah, but it's a very important one. Is that the measurements of the Aron are all half measurements. The Torah tells us that the length, amatay mechetzi orko, the length is 2.5 amot. The width is 1.5 amma, and the height is 1.5 amma. So why half sizes? Like, I don't know, Hashem it could have been perfectly done if it was 2 by 2 by 4 height or whatever. Just give regular. Why half sizes? This also connects to this week's parasha is Parashat Terumah. It's also shekalim, and they would give a machatzita shekel, a half a shekel. Why half a shekel? Give a full shekel, right? So the half size when it comes to the Aron is because the Aron represents the Torah, and which held, of course, the Ten Commandments in it. A person is never complete when it comes to Torah. That's the message. That a person can think, oh, I learned a lot, I know a lot, I've been doing this for years, so I'm complete and I know everything already. No, when it comes to Torah, there's always more to study, there's always more to learn, there's always more to grow. And therefore, in a certain way, we're all half, we're all not complete. And when it comes to the machatzita shekel, we're offering that half shekel. I'll do a plug-in now for my shiur tonight at 8:30 at Magen David. We're doing a Haftarah shiur, and the Haftarah this week is going to be Haftarah Shekalim. So that won't be on a Zoom feed. It'll be live. There should be some good pizza there tonight. So we're going to be talking about Machatzita Shekel, B'shat Hashem. So Machatzita Shekel, half shekel, because I'm bringing a half, my friend's bringing a half, my friend's bringing a half, and we're all doing this for communal sacrifices for the Beit HaMikdash. And therefore, it's telling the message here. It's not a Torah message as the Aron is, but it's a personal message. I'm not a whole person myself. I am not complete myself. I need others to complete me. I need other people in the minyan. I can't pray by myself. I can't function as a Jew on an island by myself. On the conversion bedin, one of the first things is that, do you live in a Jewish community? We tell the people, because you can't, if you want to practice Judaism in Oshawa or whatever, there's no Jewish community there. That's nice, but you can't be a function, and they won't convert you if you live out there, because you need to be part of the community. Jewish schools, restaurants, synagogue, minyan, etc. And therefore, the half shekel represents a person. We're not complete. We need each other. We need all of Bnei Israel as one. Also, something to point out is when it comes to the Aron, it says ve'asu Aron atzeh shitim. They made the Aron. But when it comes to every other item, it says ve'asita kaporet, ve'asita shulchan, ve'asita menorat zahav, and you made. Ve'asu is and you shall make. So why by the Aron is it different? Ve'asita is past. Ve'asita, and this is what you're going to do, and ve'asu is and you shall do. And the reason here as well, because when it comes to Torah, it's always in the present. It's not like, okay, I made the menorah, and that's it. Menorah is complete. No, when it comes to the Aron, yes, you made a physical Aron, but that represents the Torah. And it's always in a state of ve'asu, that you're continuing to do and continuing to connect to. When it comes to the Aron, in Pasuk Tetvav, the Torah tells us, Betabeot ha'aron yuhabadim lo yasuru mimenu. On the side of the Aron, picture a rectangular square, rectangular box, and on the two sides were two poles to hold the Aron. Our Chachamim tell us that the Aron was noseh et nosav. It would carry the people. They didn't need to carry the Aron. The Aron was so holy that it would carry the people. Yet the badim, the poles that were used officially for carrying, was never allowed to be removed. If a person removed them, he would violate a sin of the Torah. Lo yasuru mimenu. We know there was poles also by the Mizbeach HaZahav. There was poles, and I'm pretty sure by the Shulchan as well. But there's no violation of removing those poles. And remember, they had to travel in the desert from here to there, here to there. But the poles of the Aron, it was asur to remove them. And the explanation here is because the poles of the Aron are those that lift up the Aron, those that support Torah. And those that support Torah are connected to the Torah, are connected in a very strong way to the Torah. In such a strong way that it's asur to remove them. Not everyone, is able to learn or grew up with that. But if you support Torah, not just monetarily, in any way, when you're talking at the Shabbat table and you support, you know what? Okay, Baruch Hashem, people are learning Torah. Baruch Hashem, there's more Torah these days in Bnei Israel. Supporting Torah in any fashion therefore you're attached to the Torah, and that's never going to be removed. Now, one of the items in the Mishkan that was used was the Orot Techashim. The Orot Techashim, the leather of the Techashim. That's at the beginning of the Parashah. Ve'orot elim me'odamim, ve'orot techashim, va'atzeh shitim. Orot techashim. So the pasuk says, Perek Chavav, pasuk Yudalid. Ve'asita michseh la'ohel. You made a cover for the ohel. Orot elim me'odamim, the leather of the rams, and it was red. Umichseh orot techashim milemala, and a cover of the orot techashim above. So the orot techashim, the leather of the techashim. So which animal was this tachash animal, techashim? So that she tells us the answer of the Parashah that this animal, I just want to read it inside here, min chaya. She tells us this animal, the tachash, was only created at that time for the Mishkan. It had many colors. Its skin had many colors. And so that's the tachash. Now, the techashim, as we read in the pasuk, was milemala. That it was a covering, it was the outer covering of the roof of the Mishkan, was with the skins of the techashim. And that's the Gemara explains that's what it means, milemala. Because you could also understand milemala from the inside of the Mishkan. So the orot elim me'odamim was, if you're inside the Mishkan, you're looking up, you would see the red. If you're outside of the Mishkan, and you're like bird's eye view, or also it would drape over the sides, was the orot techashim. What does the multicolored skin represent? It represents Bnei Israel. Bnei Israel is comprised of 12 Shvatim. The 12 Shvatim were not the same. Their flags were different. And their minhagim were different. Their foods might have been different. Their location in Eretz Yisrael was different. But everyone was one. Everyone was under Yaakov Avinu. Everyone comes from Yaakov Avinu. Yet, there are differences. And this is the Orot HaChashim Milamala, is recognizing that there are different Jews in Bnei Israel. There's Temanis, the Moroccans, there's Iraqis, there's Ashkenazim, Polish and Hungarian, and the Hasidim, and there's different Jews. There's different shades of the colors of Jews. But when everyone's following halacha, when everyone's following Hashem's way, of course, not the shades that are outside of the Torah box, so to speak, but everyone and there's different shades, but they're all beautiful and they're all Bnei Israel. And that's the diversity within Bnei Israel, within the Torah, that we have to very much appreciate. Um, Two short stories. One is Rabbi Yasayag Shlita would say how um, in Meknes there was the famous Rabbi Rafael Baruch Toledano, who passed away in the 50s, and he was on the Beit Din with Rabbi Yosef Masas, the uncle of Rabbi Shalom Masas. Rabbi Toledano was very strict. Rabbi Masas was very lenient, but both in the confines, of course, of halacha. But then when they would see each other, both would kiss each other's hands. Meaning, we could sit on the same Beit Din, you could have a different view than I. A case comes in, and one can be strict, and one can be, nah, it's okay, we're lenient, it can work out, we can work it out like this, work it out like that. And you said, what, this guy's crazy, that guy's crazy. No. There's diversity. It's all within halakha. I respect you, and you respect me. And another short stories I remember when I was in yeshiva in Ner Israel, and as a teenager, this caught me off guard a little bit. But one of the Rosh Yeshivas, Rabbi Greenberger, told me in a meeting. He said, don't change your personality. He told me, and at the time, it was a shock to me because, let's say, I was becoming a yeshiva boy, and I wanted to fit in the mold, so to speak. And I thought, like, maybe I have to sacrifice certain Moroccan minhagim or tefillot or singing or personality, to fit into that box. And he opened my eyes and said, no. Yes, of course, you want to be a yeshiva boy and you want to learn more, etc. But it doesn't mean to sacrifice your personality. It's to bring that into, because it's going according to halakha, it's according to the Torah. It's beautiful. That's your kelim. That's who you are. And don't sacrifice that. And that's what I think the diversity, all under the banner of Torah, is represented with the Orot HaChashim. 354.